Hello there and welcome to Science for Bedtime. I'm so glad you found your way here. Tonight, as the world outside grows quiet and the day softly folds itself into evening, I invite you to set down whatever you've been carrying. Loosen your shoulders. Let your jaw soften. Allow your breath to slow, drifting in and out like a gentle tide rolling onto a moonlit shore. There is nowhere you need to be now. Nothing left to solve. Only this peaceful moment, wrapped around you like a warm, familiar blanket pulled up to your chin. Imagine yourself drifting weightlessly above the calm surface of a vast turquoise sea. Below you, hidden beneath sun-dappled waters, lies one of the most magnificent living wonders our planet has ever known. A glittering underwater garden that stretches across more than 2,000 kilometers of coastline, alive with the slow, dreamlike movement of countless tiny lives. Tonight, we journey gently into the heart of the Great Barrier Reef. We will float past coral towers as old as cathedrals, swim alongside sea turtles older than your grandparents, and listen to the soft, hidden music of a world that moves at the pace of starlight on still water. If you find these slow, soothing journeys help carry you into restful sleep, a quiet tap on the like button or a gentle subscribe would mean the world to me. It helps these peaceful stories find others who, like you, are searching for stillness at the end of a long day. There is no rush, no pressure. Simply settle in. Close your eyes whenever you feel ready, and let my voice become a soft current beneath you, carrying you along. So take one slow, deep breath in and a longer, gentler breath out. Feel the weight of the day begin to dissolve. And now, dear friend, let's begin this slow and soothing journey. Picture yourself slowly drifting downward now, weightless as a feather settling onto still water. The surface of the sea closes softly above you, like silk being drawn across a sleeping face. Sunlight filters through in long, golden ribbons, swaying gently with the rhythm of the ocean's slow breath. The water is warm. The water is kind. It holds you the way a cradle holds a sleeping child. And below, growing closer with every gentle moment, the Great Barrier Reef begins to unfold its endless, shimmering secrets, waiting patiently to share them with you, one peaceful story at a time. The Great Barrier Reef is the largest living structure on our quiet blue planet. Imagine a delicate tapestry woven slowly over millions of soft, unhurried years, stretching longer than the distance between distant cities sleeping beneath the same gentle moon. It rests off the northeastern coast of Australia, lying along the warm turquoise edge of the Coral Sea like a long, dreaming ribbon. From high above, astronauts have gazed down upon it, watching it shimmer like scattered jewels resting upon dark velvet. It is so vast, so quietly enormous, that it can be seen from the silent stillness of outer space. And yet, every single thread of this great living tapestry is made of countless tiny creatures, each smaller than the tip of your little finger, working together in slow, patient harmony, building something far larger than themselves, something timeless, something tender. The reef stretches across more than 2,300 kilometers, a soft and winding garden beneath the sea. If you were to drift along its full length at the pace of a slow, drifting cloud, you would pass over more than 900 islands and nearly 3,000 individual reefs, each one its own small kingdom of color and quiet life. Some reefs are tucked close to the shore, where mangrove roots dip their fingers into the warm, brackish water. Others lie far out toward the open sea, where the deep blue begins to whisper. Together they form a vast, gentle network, like the lacework patterns frost draws upon a window pane on winter mornings. It is a place of soft edges, slow currents, and endless peaceful wonder, stitched together by the patient, unhurried hands of time and tide. The coral that builds this great reef is a quiet, living creature, soft-bodied and slow-hearted. Each tiny coral is called a polyp, and a single polyp is no larger than a grain of cooked rice. It sits within a delicate cup of limestone, gently waving its small, feathery arms in the soft current, like a flower swaying in a breeze. By day, many polyps tuck themselves inward, resting in their tiny stone chambers. By night, they bloom outward, opening like little stars across the reef, gathering food from the warm, dark water. Imagine millions upon millions of these gentle creatures, all opening together when the sun goes to sleep, turning the reef into a soft, glowing meadow beneath the waves. They are tiny gardeners of the sea, tending a kingdom older than memory. The Great Barrier Reef began its slow, patient growing many thousands of years ago, after the last great ice age softened into warmer days. As the seas rose gently, like a deep, slow breath being taken by the earth, the corals followed the rising waters, layer upon delicate layer. Each generation of coral built quietly upon the bones of the one before, the way pages stack within a beloved old book. What we see today is only the topmost chapter of a story that stretches deep into the warm darkness below. Beneath the living reef lies a great, sleeping foundation of ancient coral, soft white limestone resting in the hush. The reef remembers the slow turning of seasons, the rising and falling of tides, the patient lullaby of a sea that has been singing the same gentle song for ages. The colors of the reef are softer than you might imagine, gentle and dreamlike, as though seen through the haze of waking from a long afternoon nap. There are corals the color of buttercream and rose petals, of pale honey and sleepy lavender. There are fish striped like ribbon candy, drifting slowly through the warm water. There are sea fans the color of sunset clouds, swaying back and forth in the soft, rocking pulse of the current. Light enters the water from above, broken into long, shimmering threads, and those threads dance across the coral in slow, hypnotic patterns. It is a place where every color seems to breathe, every surface seems to glow softly from within. The reef does not shout its beauty, whispers it gently, like a bedtime story told in a voice almost too soft to hear. Each coral polyp shares its tiny home with a quiet, invisible friend. Living within the polyp's soft tissue are countless little algae, smaller than dust, called zooxanthellae. These small companions catch sunlight as it filters through the warm water, and they turn that sunlight gently into food, sharing it with the coral. In return, the polyp gives them a safe, peaceful place to live. It is one of nature's softest friendships, a quiet exchange of gifts repeated for millions of years. Without these gentle algae, the corals would not have their dreamy colors, for the algae are what paint the reef in shades of gold and green and rose. Imagine that, the great reef glowing softly beneath the waves, lit from within by tiny living lanterns, each one no bigger than a single sleepy thought. Such tender partnerships hold the world together. The reef is home to more than 1,500 kinds of fish, each one a small swimming brushstroke of color. There are clownfish, the gentle little ones with their soft orange and white stripes hiding among the swaying arms of sea anemones. There are parrotfish, painted in dreamy blues and greens, their mouths shaped like soft beaks. There are angelfish, drifting like flowing silk, and surgeonfish that move in slow, patient schools. Some fish are no bigger than a teaspoon, while others are longer than your arm. They glide through the coral the way leaves drift along a quiet stream, each one going about its own peaceful business. To watch them is to watch a soft, endless ballet, choreographed by tides and time, performed in a theater of light and shadow beneath the warm, sleepy sea. Among the gentlest visitors to the reef is the green sea turtle, a creature whose ancestors swam these very waters when dinosaurs still walked the earth. With slow, drifting strokes of its soft, paddle-shaped flippers, it moves through the coral gardens with the grace of a slow, floating cloud. Its shell is the color of forest moss touched by morning light, patterned in soft hexagonal shapes like a quilt stitched by patient hands. The green sea turtle can live more than 80 years, drifting through warm seas, returning each generation to the same quiet beaches where it was born. It eats seagrass, grazing slowly in the underwater meadows, and its movements are unhurried, dreamlike. To meet the gaze of a sea turtle is to feel time itself slow down, soften, and become as gentle as the lapping of tide on sand. The reef is also home to the manta ray, a creature that flies more than swims through the warm blue water. With wings that can stretch wider than the height of a tall doorway, the manta moves with slow, graceful sweeps, like a great soft kite drifting on an underwater wind. Its underside is pale, dappled with markings as unique as fingerprints, no two ever quite the same. Mantas are gentle, peaceful creatures. They feed on tiny drifting things called plankton, opening their wide, soft mouths and letting the sea pour through. Sometimes, on still mornings, they gather in slow, swirling groups, turning circles in the water like dancers rehearsing a quiet waltz. To watch a manta ray glide past is to feel the deep peace of something ancient and unhurried, moving through the world without rush or worry. There is a creature called the dugong, a soft and gentle relative of the manatee that grazes peacefully in the seagrass meadows beside the reef. Imagine a large, rounded animal the color of wet stone, with a sweet, whiskered face and slow, dreamy eyes. The dugong moves through the underwater pastures the way an old, contented cow might wander through a meadow at dusk, taking slow mouthfuls of soft green grass. They are quiet creatures, deeply peaceful, and rarely in any hurry. Sailors of long ago, glimpsing them at twilight, sometimes mistook their gentle silhouettes for mermaids resting in the shallows. They live for as long as 70 years, drifting slowly through the same warm waters, and they are sometimes called sea cows for the patient way they tend their endless gardens beneath the soft and silver waves. Seagrass meadows lie beside the reef like soft green pastures, swaying together in the slow, rocking rhythm of the tide. They are not coral, but living plants with thin, flowing leaves that bend gently in the current, each one shimmering like a wisp of silk. These meadows are nurseries for countless tiny lives. Baby fish hide among the soft blades. Small crabs scuttle between the roots. Tiny shrimp drift like sleepy specks of light. The seagrass also feeds the dugongs and the green sea turtles, offering itself slowly, generously, season after season. From above, the meadows look like rolling fields of pale, underwater wheat, gently combed by invisible hands. They are quiet places, soft places, where the sea holds its breath and the world seems to whisper its slowest, oldest lullaby. They are the gentle outskirts of the reef's great kingdom. When the sun sinks softly toward the horizon, the reef begins to change its quiet rhythm. Daytime fish, the bright and busy ones, drift back to their hiding places among the coral, tucking themselves into small caves and shadowed nooks. Nighttime creatures begin to stir, slipping out from their hidden corners. Small octopuses uncurl their gentle arms. Lobsters tap softly along the sandy floor with their long, feathery feelers. Coral polyps open their tiny, star-like mouths to feed in the cool, dim water. The reef does not sleep all at once the way we do. Instead, it shifts its breathing, like a great, peaceful creature turning over in its rest. Some lives wake while others dream. The handover is gentle, unhurried, woven into the soft, slipping away of light. It is a beautiful, balanced rhythm, as old as the sea itself. Among the most enchanting moments at the reef is the great spawning of the corals, which happens just once each year, on a quiet night soon after the full moon of late spring. As if by some shared secret signal, countless coral polyps release tiny pink and pearl-colored bundles into the water, all at once. These soft, glowing bundles drift upward, slow as snowflakes falling in reverse, filling the dark water with what looks like a gentle blizzard of stars. The sea, just for that single dreamy night, seems to fill with floating constellations. From these tiny offerings, new corals will eventually grow, settling on the reef and beginning their long, slow lives. It is one of the largest synchronized events in the natural world. A hush of unity between countless small creatures, all listening to the same ancient silvery song of the moon. The clownfish, with its soft orange body and snowy white stripes, lives a quiet, devoted life among the swaying arms of the sea anemone. The anemone is a gentle creature too, with long, drifting tentacles that sting most fish, but never harm the clownfish, who is wrapped in a special slippery coating that keeps it safe. Together they share a small, peaceful home, the clownfish darting in and out among the tentacles, the anemone protecting it with its soft, curtain-like embrace. In return, the clownfish brings little bits of food and keeps its companion clean. They are partners for life, often staying together for many years. Imagine a tiny orange spark flickering in and out of a soft, drifting forest. That is the clownfish at home, dreaming small dreams in the gentlest hideaway the reef has to offer. Deep in the quieter places of the reef, where shadow and light play softly together, there lives a creature called the cuttlefish. Its body is shaped like a smooth, rounded cushion, and along the edges of that body run delicate fins, fluttering like the hem of a long, flowing skirt. The cuttlefish can change its colors in a heartbeat, painting itself in soft, drifting hues, ribbons of lavender, ripples of gold, gentle pulses of pearl. It uses these colors to speak in a silent, glowing language. Sometimes it shifts patterns just for the pleasure of it, like a child humming a soft tune. Cuttlefish have large, dreamy eyes and a quiet, curious nature. They are among the most thoughtful of sea creatures, gentle artists drifting slowly through the water, painting and unpainting themselves in the hush. The reef is home to many kinds of sea stars, the soft-armed wanderers of the underwater garden. Some are the color of crushed strawberries, others are pale blue like an early morning sky. The cushion star, plump and gentle, looks rather like a small pillow resting on the sand, and the Lynchia sea star, with its long, slender arms, drifts across the reef as if it were a slow shape drawn in fading chalk. Sea stars have no eyes the way we do, but tiny light-sensing spots at the tip of each soft arm. They move so slowly that watching them feels like watching a flower bloom. They glide along on hundreds of tiny, soft tube feet, carrying themselves across the reef the way patience itself might walk. They are the dreamers of the seafloor, unhurried, unworried, simply being. In the quiet, sandy spaces between the corals, the garden eels make their soft homes. Each eel is long and thin, like a piece of pale ribbon, and each one lives in its own small burrow, rising up out of the sand like a slender stem in a meadow. From above, a colony of garden eels looks like a field of swaying grass, gently bending in whatever direction the current chooses. They sip tiny bits of food from the water as it drifts by. If anything gentle approaches, they slip back down into their burrows in slow unison, like a field of tall grass brushed flat by an invisible breeze. They are shy, peaceful creatures, and watching them sway together feels like watching the sea hum a soft, wordless lullaby through a meadow grown beneath the waves. The seahorse is one of the gentlest residents of the reef, a tiny, dreaming creature that floats upright through the soft, swaying gardens of coral and seagrass. Its body curls into the shape of a question mark, and it grips onto blades of grass or slim coral branches with a small, curling tail, the way a child holds a beloved hand. Seahorses move slowly, very slowly, drifting along with delicate, fluttering fins so small they are almost invisible. They come in colors of soft yellow, pale pink, and creamy cream, sometimes patterned like little pebbles, sometimes pale as moonlight. In the seahorse family, it is the gentle father who carries the babies, tucked safely in a small pouch upon his belly, until they are ready to drift out into the warm, kind water on their own. There is a fish called the parrotfish that spends its quiet days nibbling softly on the coral, scraping away the smallest bits of stone and algae. As it eats, it grinds the limestone into the finest powder, soft as dust in a sunbeam. By the time this powder leaves the fish, it has become pure, pale sand. Many of the world's most beautiful white sand beaches are made, in large part, from the slow and patient work of parrotfish. A single parrotfish can produce hundreds of pounds of fine, gentle sand each year. So when you find yourself one day walking along a soft, white shore at the edge of a tropical sea, you may be walking through the slow, generous gift of these dreamy fish who tended the reef and quietly built a beach without ever knowing it. The giant clam is one of the great old residents of the Great Barrier Reef, resting peacefully among the corals, sometimes for more than 100 years. Its shell can grow as wide as a child's open arms, scalloped like the soft folds of an opened seashell on a sunlit shore. The lips of the clam are draped in colors more gentle than any artist could dream. Soft turquoises, rich purples, dreamy greens, and golds the color of late afternoon sun. Living within the clam's soft tissue are tiny algae, the same gentle companions that color the corals. These algae make food from sunlight and share it with the clam. The giant clam does not need to hurry, does not need to roam. It simply rests in one place, sipping the sea, drinking the sun, content for a quiet century. Octopuses live among the reef's soft hiding places, slipping between rocks and coral shelves as easily as water itself. Their bodies are soft and flexible, with no bones at all, so they can squeeze through openings barely larger than a coin. Octopuses are remarkably gentle thinkers, with eyes that hold a slow, watchful intelligence. Each one has 8 long arms, lined with tiny, sensitive suckers that can taste and feel and touch. They use their arms to gently explore, opening shells, lifting pebbles, peering into caves with quiet curiosity. Some octopuses change color and texture in a heartbeat, melting into the coral around them, becoming pale stone or speckled sand. They are the soft magicians of the reef, drifting through their days with patience and wonder, never in any hurry, simply living their dreamy, gentle lives among the swaying gardens. Among the quietest and most enchanting creatures of the reef are the nudibranchs, soft sea slugs whose bodies look as though they were painted by the brush of a sleeping artist. They are tiny, no larger than a thumb, and they drift along the coral on slow, unhurried bodies. But oh, their colors. Some are striped in lemon yellow and lavender. Some are dusted in tiny golden spots. Others trail soft, feathery plumes from their backs like the fringe of a delicate scarf. They glide along on a single, gentle foot, leaving no trail, asking for nothing. They are sometimes called the butterflies of the sea, though they are slower, sweeter, more dreamlike than any butterfly. To find a nudibranch tucked among the coral is like finding a tiny, glowing jewel left as a quiet gift by the tide. Sometimes, in the deep blue beyond the reef, the great whales come passing through. Humpback whales travel along the coast on their long, slow migrations, their great backs rising softly above the surface, their breath rising in tall, white plumes against the sky. The mothers swim with their gentle calves close beside them, nudging them up to breathe, singing to them in long, low songs that carry through the water for miles. These songs are slow and dreamlike, full of soft groans and quiet trills, like lullabies sung in a language older than human voices. Sometimes a humpback will lift its enormous tail above the surface, holding it for a long, peaceful moment before letting it slip back beneath the waves. They are the great wandering peacekeepers of the sea, quiet giants drifting through the same warm waters year after year. There is a fish called the wrasse, sometimes called the cleaner wrasse, who keeps the reef tidy in the most peaceful, gentle way. Other fish line up patiently at certain spots on the reef, the way one might wait at a quiet little neighborhood shop. The cleaner wrasse, no longer than a finger, drifts softly between the larger fish, picking off tiny bits of dust and small parasites, even venturing into the open mouths of large, slow predators. The bigger fish, calm as still water, simply hover in place, allowing the wrasse to do its quiet work. It is a small daily ritual of trust, a tiny ceremony of care exchanged between creatures of very different sizes. The reef hums with these gentle agreements, these soft acts of kindness, woven into every quiet hour, holding the whole great tapestry softly together. The reef itself is older than nearly anything you might walk past on land. Some of its deepest foundations began forming more than 20 million years ago, slowly building, layer upon layer, like a great library of stone whose pages were written by the sea. The newest reefs, the ones we see shimmering today, are around 6,000 to 8,000 years old, still young by the reef's gentle reckoning. To the corals, time moves slowly, softly, as though every century were merely a long, dreaming afternoon. They have watched mountains rise and rivers carve new paths. They have felt the seas cool and warm again. Through all of it, they have simply continued their patient, quiet building, never rushing, never resting, growing the way thoughts grow in a peaceful mind. Slowly, beautifully, without any need to be anywhere other than here. The reef sits within the warm, gentle embrace of the coral sea, where the water is the color of dreams and the temperature stays soft and kind through nearly every season. The shallow lagoons can be as warm as a freshly drawn bath, while the deeper waters beyond the outer reef remain cooler, clearer, with a quiet, glassy stillness. Fresh rivers from the Australian mainland sometimes pour their slow waters into the sea, mingling gently with the salt, creating soft ribbons of mixing water that the reef has come to know intimately. Tropical rainstorms drift across the surface in the warm months, leaving pearls of rain dimpling the sea like fingertips trailing across silk. The reef rests within all of this, cradled by warmth, fed by tides, washed by rain, surrounded by the slow, patient generosity of the ocean's gentlest moods. Among the reef's most charming residents is the cuttlefish's smaller, glowing cousin, the firefly squid, whose body is dotted with tiny living lights, soft as candle flames seen through a frosted window. Though firefly squid are more often found in deeper, cooler waters, the reef has its own glowing wonders. There are fish that flash quiet little signals from beneath their fins, and tiny shrimp that produce small, sleepy sparks in the dark. On certain nights, when the moon is dim and the water is still, the surface of the reef can shimmer with a faint, dreamy glow called bioluminescence, as though the sea itself was softly remembering the stars. Imagine drifting just above the water and watching the gentle reef breathe its small lights into the dark, like a meadow of fireflies blooming beneath the silvery hush. The reef has many shapes, as varied as clouds drifting across a soft summer sky. There are fringing reefs, growing close along the shores of islands and the mainland, sketching the coastline with quiet color. There are platform reefs, rising up from the seafloor like flat, sun-dappled tabletops. There are ribbon reefs, long and slender, draping themselves across the outer edge like silk scarves laid gently upon the water. And there are the reef's beloved coral cays, tiny low islands of pale sand built up by waves and time, capped with soft tufts of greenery, surrounded by impossibly turquoise lagoons. Each shape tells a quiet story of how the wind, the water, and the slow centuries have worked together. The reef is not one thing, but many gentle places gathered into one great peaceful family beneath the sea. Sometimes, when the tide draws gently back, certain parts of the reef are revealed in the soft morning light. Small pools of seawater are left behind, scattered across the exposed coral like little jeweled mirrors. These tide pools are tiny worlds unto themselves. Inside you might find small starfish curled like sleeping children, hermit crabs carrying their borrowed homes upon their soft backs, tiny fish darting among the swaying fronds of pink coral. The water in these pools is warm and still, gently heated by the sun, and the surface is so smooth that it reflects the wide, dreaming sky above. As the tide returns, slowly, patiently, the pools rejoin the great breathing sea once more. It is a quiet, gentle rhythm, repeated twice each day, the soft inhalation and exhalation of the ocean's tender lung. The reef is sometimes visited by the great whale shark, the largest fish in all the seas, yet one of the gentlest. Imagine a creature longer than a school bus, drifting slowly through the warm water with the quiet ease of a wandering cloud. Its skin is soft gray, dotted with hundreds of tiny pale spots, like a starlit sky rearranged across its long, peaceful body. The whale shark feeds only on the smallest things, tiny plankton and small fish, swimming with its great mouth slightly open. simply letting the sea pour gently through. It harms nothing. It hurries nothing. It moves through the world at the slow, dreamlike pace of something that has learned the deep secret of contentment. To swim beside one is to feel suddenly, beautifully small in the most peaceful, comforting way. There are over 600 kinds of soft and hard corals living within the Great Reef, each one a tiny architect of beauty. Some grow in delicate branching shapes, like the fingers of an old, gentle willow tree. Others spread out in great rounded mounds, soft as the backs of sleeping creatures. There are corals shaped like giant flat plates that stack upon one another like dishes in a quiet kitchen cupboard. There are corals shaped like cabbage roses, like flowering brain shapes, like fields of tiny upturned cups waiting to catch raindrops. Each one builds its delicate skeleton at its own slow pace, some growing only a centimeter each year. They never compete loudly, only fit themselves softly into the spaces between their neighbors, weaving the great patient tapestry of the reef together with the gentlest threads imaginable. Stretched across the long reef are countless small coral islands called cays, formed slowly over thousands of years as waves piled up bits of broken coral and sand into low, peaceful mounds. Some cays are bare and pale, just soft white sandbars rising barely above the sea, glowing in the sun. Others are larger, dressed in green grasses and small shrubs, where seabirds come to nest. Heron Island and Lady Elliot Island and Green Island are some of the most beloved, soft little homes for terns, noddies, and the occasional sleepy reef heron. The cays appear and grow and sometimes drift gently with the seasons, like little ships of sand anchored loosely to the seafloor. They are some of the youngest places on Earth, born of patience and tide, soft new pages still being added to the reef's old story. Each year, in the quiet warmth of the southern winter, hundreds of thousands of seabirds come home to the reef's small islands to nest. The black noddies build delicate, leafy little homes high in the branches of Pisonia trees. The wedge-tailed shearwaters dig long, soft burrows into the sandy ground, returning to the same burrow year after year, like coming home to a cherished bedroom. The white-bellied sea eagles soar slowly overhead, their wings broad and patient. At dusk, the sky above the cays fills with the slow, peaceful flapping of tired wings, returning birds drifting in to settle for the night. Their soft, low calls fill the dim air with a gentle music. The reef does not only live beneath the water, it lives also in the soft sky above, woven through with feathers and breath. Beneath the moonlight, the reef holds another quiet wonder. After the great spawning, tiny coral larvae drift along on the slow currents, no bigger than a grain of sand. They are soft, peaceful little travelers, each one searching gently for a new home. After many days of drifting, when the time is right, each larva sinks slowly toward the sea floor and finds a spot of clean stone or coral to settle upon. Once it touches down, it begins to grow, very slowly, into a new polyp, the first beat of a new little colony. Over years and years, that single tiny settler may become a great mound of coral the size of a small car. Each great coral on the reef began this way, as a single drifting traveler, listening quietly for the right place to begin its long, patient life. Among the larger residents of the reef are the gentle reef sharks, slow patrollers of the warm waters. Despite the dramatic stories that sometimes drift through human hearts, the reef sharks are calm, careful creatures, often shy. The white-tip reef shark rests for long, peaceful hours in the cool shade beneath rocky overhangs, only stirring at dusk to glide softly through the coral. The black-tip reef shark drifts along the shallow lagoons, its little black-tipped fins barely breaking the silvery surface of the water. They move with quiet, focused grace, like brushstrokes painted onto the sea by a patient hand. They keep the reef in balance, eating only what they need, nothing more. Like every gentle predator, they are part of the great soft melody of the reef, a slow note in the long, peaceful song of the sea. The reef has its own quiet language of sound. If you were to listen with a soft underwater ear, you would hear a constant, gentle chorus. Tiny shrimp click their small claws softly like a meadow full of crickets singing their evening song. Damselfish hum and chirp to defend their little territories. Parrotfish crunch quietly on coral. Coral itself, in all its slow patience, whispers small sounds as it grows. Add to this the slow, distant calls of whales drifting through the deeper water and the soft brushing of sand by passing currents. The reef is a slow, layered symphony, played without instruments, without conductors, without ending. It is a sound much like falling asleep itself, a gentle, layered hum that wraps the listener in a feeling of being held, of being at the center of something soft and breathing. There is a moment each evening when the reef seems to pause just briefly between worlds. The sun lowers itself toward the horizon, and the water takes on a soft golden quality as though steeped in honey. The bright daytime fish begin to slow, drifting toward their resting places among the coral. The colors of the reef deepen, blushing into rose and amber, as though the sea were quietly sighing. For just a few peaceful minutes, neither the day creatures nor the night creatures are fully awake. The reef is suspended in a soft hush, like a child halfway between play and sleep, eyelids growing heavy. The light shifts slowly through the water, gentling everything in its path. It is the reef's twilight, the moment when even the smallest fish seems to take one slow, deep breath before the dreaming begins. The reef is home to many gentle eels who live tucked into their soft hiding places among the coral. The moray eel is the largest, with a long, ribbon-like body and a calm, watchful face. By day it rests in its cave, its head poking out softly, opening and closing its mouth in slow, peaceful breaths, simply pulling water across its gills. The smaller ribbon eels are dressed in dreamy colors, soft yellows and quiet blues, with delicate fringed nostrils that look like tiny lace. There are also garden eels, the shy ones who live in fields, swaying like underwater grass. The eels of the reef do not chase. They wait. They rest. They breathe. They are some of the patient, quiet hearts of the great, gentle community, content to live tucked into their soft shadows, watching the world drift slowly by. Far beneath the surface, in the deep, cool spaces below the bright, shallow reef, there are corals that grow without any sunlight at all. These deep-sea corals are slower, even quieter, building their delicate skeletons in the soft, dim hush of the lower water. Some are pale as milk, others are softly pink. They feed only on tiny drifting things that fall from above, the gentle snow of the upper sea. Some of these deep corals may be thousands of years old, growing only a hair's breadth each year. Beside them drift slow, peaceful creatures, fish with great gentle eyes adapted to the dim light. It is a quieter, slower world, like a library at midnight, where every book has long settled into its shelf. Even there, in the great, soft darkness, the reef continues its patient breathing, far beyond the touch of sunlight. There is something deeply soothing about the way water moves over the reef. The currents come in slow, steady pulses, gentle as a sleeping breath. Sometimes the water flows one way for several hours, then quietly turns and flows the other way, like a very long, very slow heartbeat. The reef has lived with this rhythm for ages, and every creature within it dances quietly to the same tide. Small fish drift in unison with the current, swaying softly like leaves in a breeze. Coral polyps lean gently in one direction, then the other. Even the sand on the seafloor shifts in slow ripples, drawn into soft patterns by the breathing of the sea. To watch the water move across the reef is to feel one's own heartbeat slow, one's own breath deepen, in time with the great calm rhythm of the world. The reef is also home to many soft, drifting jellyfish, gentle creatures that move through the water like little pulsing parachutes of glass. Their soft bells contract and release again and again in a slow, dreamy rhythm. Long, thin tendrils trail behind them, swaying like the threads of a very soft tapestry. There are box jellies and moon jellies and tiny upside-down jellies that lie peacefully along the shallow seafloor with their tentacles drifting upward like small underwater bouquets. Most jellies have no real eyes, no brain in the way we know. They are mostly water themselves, 95% of their soft little bodies made of the same sea they drift through. They are the sea dreaming about itself. They are tiny, living blossoms of pulse and breath, peacefully going wherever the water gently takes them. In the warm, shallow waters of the reef live many kinds of small, gentle pufferfish, with their round, comical faces and slow, dreamy eyes. They drift through the coral on tiny, fluttering fins, looking around with calm curiosity. When they feel anything is amiss, they gently puff themselves up into a soft, round ball, all in slow motion, like a balloon being filled with patience. After a moment, they slowly let the air out again and resume their peaceful drifting. There are tiny pufferfish no larger than a strawberry and great big pufferfish nearly the size of a beach ball. Some have soft speckled patterns, some have dreamy painted faces. They are some of the most quietly endearing creatures of the reef, going slowly about their gentle days, content to bumble along the coral like small, curious clouds with eyes. There is a tiny shrimp called the cleaner shrimp, dressed in soft cherry red and white stripes, who keeps a small, quiet station in the coral, tending to passing fish, like the cleaner wrasse. The cleaner shrimp offers a gentle service. Larger fish glide up slowly, hovering still in the water, opening their mouths to invite the shrimp inside. The shrimp tiptoes across the fish's skin and even across its tongue, picking off tiny bits of dust and small parasites, with the calm focus of a careful gardener tending a beloved rose. Both creatures are perfectly safe. They have done this for one another for ages. Imagine a tiny red and white shrimp dancing along the soft scales of a great slow-eyed fish, the two of them perfectly at peace, utterly trusting, woven together by the quiet kindness of the reef. The reef is full of small, secret friendships, partnerships that have been quietly woven together over countless slow centuries. The tiny goby fish lives with a nearly blind little shrimp, the two sharing a small burrow together. The shrimp digs the home, scooping out soft sand with its small claws, while the goby keeps watch above, like a patient little sentry. If anything stirs nearby, the goby flicks its tail gently, and the shrimp slips back inside the burrow. They live their entire lives together, never leaving each other for long. The hermit crab carries little anemones upon its borrowed shell, offering them a place to ride. The clownfish dances in the safety of the anemone's arms. The reef hums with these gentle agreements. It is a place where being soft together is the deepest kind of strength. There is a little fish called the damsel, often dressed in dazzling deep blue or quiet golden yellow, no larger than a teacup. Despite its small size, the damselfish keeps watch over its own little patch of coral garden with the patient devotion of a tiny gardener. It tends a soft mat of algae upon its chosen rock, gently nibbling away anything too rough, encouraging the soft kinds to grow. It is, in a sense, a little farmer of the reef, growing its own food, tending its own quiet kingdom. It is fierce only in the gentlest, smallest way. To watch a damselfish at work is to see a tiny creature filled with quiet purpose, weaving its small life into the great, slow tapestry of the reef, contributing in its gentle, focused, beautifully tender way. At the edge of the outer reef, where the coral plateau drops gently away into deeper water, there exists a place sometimes called the Wall. Here, the reef curls down like a vast, soft cliff, plunging into the indigo dim, and the visiting fish are larger, slower, more dreamlike. Great groupers hover in the cool current. Sea fans wider than open umbrellas sway slowly in the deeper hush. The water turns from bright turquoise to the rich, deep blue of twilight. From the Wall you can look upward and see the bright reef glowing above, lit by sunlight, and downward into the soft mystery below. It is a gentle threshold, a quiet doorway between the bright, shallow daydream and the dim, peaceful night world beyond. Even here, far from shore, the reef continues, its great patient breath stretching downward into the silent depths. The reef is touched by the slow, gentle dance of moon and sun, who together stir the great tides. Twice each day, the sea breathes in and out across the reef, lifting the water high in the morning and again at night. then easing it gently away in between. The corals know these rhythms intimately. The smallest crabs and shells know them too. Even the patterns of the reef's life, the spawning, the feeding, the resting, are all woven into the slow gravitational lullaby sung by the moon. When the moon is full, the tides reach their highest and lowest points, and the reef seems to pulse with extra quiet life. The moon is a faraway companion to the sea, drawing it gently this way and that. Like a parent, lightly rocking a sleeping child in their soft, patient arms. Among the soft white sands of the reef's island shores live the loveliest tiny crabs called ghost crabs. Named for the way they move so quickly across the sand, they almost seem to vanish into mist. By day, they rest in their small burrows beneath the warm sand. By night, they emerge in their pale, sandy-colored bodies, scuttling sideways across the moonlit beaches. They are gentle little watchers, peering out with eyes set high upon small stalks. They tidy the beach quietly, sifting through bits of seaweed and shell, leaving small soft tracks like tiny stitches sewn into the sand by invisible hands. By the time the sun returns, the gentle ghost crabs are tucked safely away again. They are the soft, secret nighttime keepers of the shore, going about their quiet tasks in the silvery hush. The reef is also home to the elegant sea snake, a graceful, slender swimmer who moves through the water like a living ribbon. Despite their long shape, the sea snakes of the Great Barrier Reef are gentle creatures, mostly shy, drifting through the coral with calm, slow grace. Some have soft bands of cream and gentle gray, others are deep, dreamy olive. They are perfectly suited to the warm sea, with paddle-shaped tails for steady swimming and soft scales that seem to glow faintly in the dappled light. They glide between the corals, weaving their long, peaceful selves among the gentle gardens, simply living their quiet days. To see one slip past is like watching a length of soft silk drawn slowly through the water by an unseen, careful hand. They are part of the reef's quiet, dreamlike beauty. The reef is sometimes brushed gently by warm tropical rains, soft showers that fall in long, quiet curtains upon the surface. Each raindrop dimples the water for a brief, tender moment, then dissolves into the great breathing sea. From beneath, the surface looks like a moving canvas of silvery dimples, swaying with the rhythm of the falling rain. The fish do not mind. The corals continue their slow, dreamy work. The rain only adds another soft layer to the reef's gentle music, a hush of water meeting water. After the rain passes, the air above the sea grows soft and cool and clean, and the surface settles into a glassy stillness. The reef beneath simply continues breathing. It has felt countless gentle rains in its long, patient life, and welcomes each new shower the way a meadow welcomes the soft return of dew. There is something wonderfully peaceful about the way fish rest within the reef. Many fish do not close their eyes when they sleep, for they have no eyelids in the way we do. Instead, they slow their movements, letting their fins drift gently as they hover near a coral nook, half awake, half dreaming. Some fish settle into small caves and cracks, tucked snugly into the soft stone. Some bury themselves lightly in the sand, only their gentle eyes peeking out. The parrotfish wraps itself in a soft, translucent cocoon of mucus each evening, a delicate, wrapped little blanket spun from its own tender body, keeping it safe through the night. Imagine that, a fish swaddling itself in a soft sleeping bag, and then drifting off, suspended in the quiet dark. The reef is full of such gentle bedtime rituals. Imagine drifting just above the reef at the moment of sunrise. The water is still cool from the night, and the first soft fingers of pink and gold light begin to slip beneath the surface. The corals begin to brighten, their colors slowly returning, like a watercolor painting being gently filled in. The fish begin to wake, drifting out from their small hiding places, swaying gently as they stretch into the new morning. Tiny silverfish gather in shimmering schools, catching the first rays of the sun. The water turns from inky violet to deep blue to soft turquoise, all in slow, dreamy stages. The whole reef seems to take one long, quiet breath in, and then slowly exhale into the new day. There is no alarm clock, no rushing. The reef awakens at the gentle pace of dawn itself. Among the reef's many beautiful corals are the great brain corals, named for the soft, winding patterns that wrap across their rounded surfaces, looking very much like the gentle folds of a sleeping mind. They grow in soft mounds the color of cream and pale rose and quiet green, and they can live for many hundreds of years, slowly adding tiny new layers each season. To rest your imagination upon a brain coral is to feel the slow, steady pulse of patience itself. The grooves of the brain coral are home to many tiny creatures, small shrimps and little fish that tuck themselves into the soft channels for shelter. Each old brain coral is its own little library of life, full of quiet stories pressed gently into stone. They are some of the reef's slow-thinking, deep dreaming elders. There are creatures called feather stars, soft cousins of the sea star, with delicate, feathered arms that look like tufts of plumage on a sleeping bird. They cling lightly to the coral with small, finger-like feet, lifting their many gentle arms into the current to gather tiny bits of food from the passing water. Some feather stars are the color of warm honey, others are pale pink, others a quiet wine red. When they wish to move, they slowly unfurl their arms and swim in soft, dreamy strokes through the water, looking very much like a flower drifting on its own through the sea. They are some of the most enchanting, ethereal creatures of the reef, drifting along like soft, swimming bouquets, weaving their own peaceful patterns through the gentle, swaying world below the waves. There is a small, dreamlike kind of shrimp called the harlequin shrimp, dressed in pastel patches of soft lilac and pale blue and gentle cream. They live in small, devoted pairs, settling together in a quiet little nook of the reef, tending their own small life with peaceful attention. They are tiny, only as long as a small thumbnail, and they walk slowly upon delicate legs, looking very much like tiny living pieces of porcelain. Their eyes are gentle, their movements unhurried, their patterns so soft they seem painted by hand. The harlequin shrimp lives a quiet, devoted life with its companion, the two of them keeping their little corner of the reef tidy and tender. They are one of the small, sweet treasures of the reef, easily missed if you do not look closely, but absolutely worth the slow, gentle searching. The reef is also visited by the slow, peaceful turtles called hawksbill turtles, smaller and more delicate than the green turtles, with shells patterned in soft amber and warm honey brown, like polished tortoise shells. They drift slowly through the coral, nibbling gently on soft sponges and small jellies, their gentle beaks shaped like a soft little hook. The hawksbills are some of the most beautifully patterned creatures of the sea, their shells rippling with overlapping tiles of color, every one a little different. Like the green turtles, they live for many quiet decades, returning across vast distances to lay their eggs on the same warm beaches where they were born. They are the slow-moving wanderers of the reef, drifting peacefully through the gardens, unhurried, unworried, content to be exactly where they are, in the gentle place they have always called home. Far beneath the surface, the corals make their own quiet kind of light. Many corals contain soft pigments that glow gently under certain conditions, like little embers smoldering beneath the water. By day, the reef is lit by sunlight from above, but if you were to drift gently down with a soft, careful light at night, the corals themselves would glow in dreamy hues of green and rose and gold. This soft internal glow is called fluorescence, and it makes the night reef look like a vast, sleeping garden of small, glowing flowers. Even some fish glow faintly in this gentle light, their patterns softly luminous, painted with whisper-bright colors. The reef has its own quiet aurora, a slow nighttime poem of soft, sleeping light, lit only when the moon is hushed and the deep darkness is kind enough to let it speak. There is a tiny fish called the boxfish, no bigger than a child's fist, with a body shaped almost exactly like a small, soft cube. The boxfish drifts slowly through the reef on its tiny, fluttering fins, looking like a sweet little gift wrapped in spotted yellow paper. There is also the trunkfish, with a similar boxy little body and a calm, dreamy face. They are some of the most peaceful, comical residents of the reef, moving without any hurry at all, simply pottering along the coral like contented little explorers. Their patterns are dotted with tiny dark spots upon soft, sunlit yellow, like a sweet little surprise wrapped in polka dots. To watch a boxfish drift by is to feel one's whole body relax, the way one relaxes when watching a baby learn to walk slowly across a soft, sunlit floor. The reef hosts a slow, quiet ritual every season, as fish gather in great schools to dance their patient mating dances. The schools of Trevally swirl in slow, perfect spirals, each fish turning at the same gentle moment, like a single great body of silver light. The fusiliers gather in long, slow ribbons, drifting through the deeper water in shimmering blue. Even the small damselfish dance their tiny dances, weaving little patterns above their coral nests. There is no music we can hear, but there is a music the fish know intimately, written in the rhythm of currents and the slow turning of the moon. Each year the same dances unfold in the same gentle places. Year upon year, the reef hums with these soft ceremonies, woven by countless gentle creatures into the great peaceful song of the sea. There is a coral called the staghorn coral, which grows in soft branching shapes like the antlers of a quiet forest deer. The staghorn grows quickly for a coral, sometimes a hand's length each year, weaving great delicate thickets across the seafloor. Schools of small silver fish use these thickets as shelter, weaving in and out between the branches the way little birds flit through the soft branches of a willow tree. The staghorn coral comes in soft cream, pale lavender, and gentle blue, and when the sun reaches it through the shallow water, the tips glow softly, like the ends of small candles. To drift slowly above a staghorn forest is to feel as though you have flown low over a peaceful underwater meadow, where the trees themselves are made of patience and stone and warm, dreaming light. There is something deeply tender about the way the reef heals itself after small disturbances. When a piece of coral breaks, perhaps from a passing storm, the broken piece does not simply die. Often it falls to the seafloor and continues to live, slowly attaching itself to the new spot, beginning a new little colony of its own. The reef is full of these quiet second chances, soft beginnings woven into endings. Tiny new corals settle each year onto open spaces, slowly filling in the gaps. The reef remembers how to recover, how to begin again, how to let new growth wrap softly around the place where something was lost. It is a slow, patient art, and the reef has been practicing it for ages. There is always, somewhere, a new small life beginning. The garden is always gently becoming itself. The reef has within it many quiet places that scientists have only just begun to know. There are deep canyons and softly hidden caves, soft mounds and peaceful valleys, all stretching across hundreds of kilometers of seafloor. Even today, gentle explorers find new species of small fish, tiny corals, and dreamlike sea creatures tucked into corners no human eye has ever seen. The reef holds its small mysteries in its soft pockets, sharing them only when it wishes in its own slow time. There may be hundreds of species of fish still waiting to be quietly discovered, drifting through the soft gardens, content to live their peaceful lives unseen. The reef is a great living book whose pages are still being turned, gently, slowly, by the careful hands of those who love it. There is always something more to learn, something soft, something tender. The waters that wash over the reef are sometimes the bluest blue you have ever seen, the kind of blue that lives only in dreams and memory. This blue comes from the way sunlight passes through clean water. The longer red wavelengths absorbed quickly, the softer blue wavelengths traveling deeper, scattering gently. In the shallow lagoons, the water glows turquoise, like a great pane of warm, polished glass. Farther out, where the sea deepens, the water settles into a richer sapphire blue, almost violet in the deepest places. From above, the reef appears as a great patchwork of soft greens and dreamlike blues, framed by golden sands and the lacy white of breaking waves. It is a palette of softness, an invitation to rest, a color so calming that simply imagining it makes the breath grow slow and the eyelids feel pleasantly heavy. There is a moment when one drifts above the reef with closed eyes, when one feels that the sea itself is breathing gently. The water rises and falls, pulses softly, carries you in its slow, kind hand. The temperature is gentle, somewhere between cool and warm, neither sharp nor heavy. The light passing through the surface paints soft moving patterns upon the skin, like the play of leaf shadows on a sleeping face. The body, suspended in the soft salt water, weighs almost nothing. The breath comes slow and easy. This is one of the great soft gifts of the reef, the way it invites the body and the heart to remember what it feels like to be carried, to be held, to do nothing at all but float gently within something vast, warm, and endlessly patient. The reef is sometimes home to the gentle, dreamlike creatures called sea cucumbers. Soft, sausage-shaped beings that drift slowly along the sandy seafloor. They come in many quiet colors: soft gray, gentle brown, a sleepy mottled green. Their bodies are velvety and smooth, and they move on the slowest of tiny tube feet, almost too slow to see. The sea cucumber is one of the great quiet recyclers of the reef, slowly sifting through the sand, gathering tiny bits of organic matter, and gently cleaning the seafloor as it goes. They are patient creatures, content with very small movements. They are sometimes called the reef's gardeners, and like the most beloved gardeners, they go about their tender work unnoticed, asking for no praise, simply tending the soft floor of the great underwater garden. Day after peaceful day, in the soft, swaying meadows and along the quiet edges of the reef, you might glimpse the stingrays, drifting like flat, gentle kites above the sandy seafloor. Their bodies are wide, flat, and the color of warm pewter or soft, sandy gold. They glide slowly with little undulating waves of their pancake-shaped fins, like a flying carpet drifting in slow motion. They are peaceful creatures, often shy, resting on the seafloor with sand softly drifted across their backs. When they wish to move, they lift gently and float through the water with a kind of dreamy ease that seems almost too slow to be real. Some kinds of stingrays travel in small groups, others drift alone. They are the soft-moving cloud creatures of the seafloor, going gently about their days, asking for nothing but the soft stillness of the sea. There is something deeply soothing about the way the reef holds time. A coral that began as a single drifting lava 500 years ago is still alive today, still slowly growing, still adding its tiny new layers. There are sea turtles older than any person you have ever met. There are sponges that have rested in the same soft spot for thousands of quiet years. The reef is a place where time seems to stretch out, slow down, and become something gentle rather than something pressing. To spend time within the reef, even in imagination, is to remember that life can move slowly, that growth does not need to be hurried, that beautiful things can take centuries to become themselves, and there is no shame, no impatience, in the long, soft path. Time on the reef is a deep, kind blessing. The reef is sometimes touched by the soft, drifting visit of the spinner dolphin, a sleek, silver-blue creature that moves through the water like a happy thought. Spinner dolphins are named for the playful way they leap from the surface and twirl gently in the air before splashing back down. They travel in soft, quiet groups called pods, communicating with each other in a language of small whistles and soft clicks. Their bodies are streamlined, their faces gently smiling, their eyes bright and curious. They sometimes swim alongside boats and divers, simply for the joy of it, gliding next to passing companions before drifting back into their own peaceful patterns. They are the lightness of the sea, the soft laughter of the deep blue, the small, glittering reminder that joy itself can be a quiet, peaceful, drifting thing. In quiet patches of the reef, you may find small, soft creatures called sea pens, tall and slender, anchored to the seafloor by a gentle little stalk. The sea pen looks rather like an old-fashioned writing quill, the kind that might have been dipped into ink to write soft letters by candlelight. They sway in the slow current, their many small branches gathering tiny bits of food from the water. Some sea pens glow faintly at night, with that soft fluorescence the reef knows so well, casting tiny halos of light into the dim. They are peaceful creatures, content to sway in one place for years and years, like small, living candles set softly into the sandy floor. They are some of the most poetic residents of the reef, drifting through their long lives in the gentlest sway. The reef is also visited in the warm waters of certain seasons by the slow and gentle minke whales, smaller cousins of the great humpbacks. The minke whales are curious and peaceful, sometimes drifting close to quiet boats, simply to look upon the people aboard with their large, soft eyes. They are streamlined and graceful, with backs the color of polished slate and pale white markings along their flippers. They feed on tiny fish and small drifting things, breathing slowly at the surface in soft puffs of mist. The minkes pass through the reef in their own quiet seasons, drifting along like the gentle thoughts of the sea itself. To meet the steady gaze of a minke whale, even just in one's imagination, is to feel the great slow heartbeat of the ocean drawing close, peaceful, kind, and softly attentive. The shells found upon the reef's quiet beaches each tell a small, gentle story. There are cone shells, smooth and patterned like soft pottery, and cowrie shells, glossy as polished wood. There are spiral shells, tiny coiled chambers shaped by the soft architecture of long-ago creatures. There are scallop shells, fluted like the petals of an opened flower, and dreamy little olive shells, smooth and small in the palm of the hand. Each shell once held a soft, gentle life, and now holds only the soft memory, washed clean by the patient sea. The shore is a slow museum of these little stories, scattered along the sand for those who wish to gather them. To walk along a quiet reef beach is to walk through countless soft, finished lives, each one once tended with great patience by the slow, dreaming sea. The reef knows the music of distant storms long before they ever arrive. As a great storm gathers somewhere far across the ocean, soft, long waves begin to roll across the sea, called swells, traveling thousands of miles before lapping gently at the reef. These swells arrive as a quiet rhythm, a slow rocking of the water, like the breathing of something great and far away. The reef has learned over countless ages how to feel these swells coming and how to settle softly into itself, holding gently to the seafloor. After the storm has passed elsewhere, the swells drift away and the sea grows still once more. The reef simply continues its slow, peaceful work. It has felt countless storms across the centuries, and it has learned the soft secret of bending without breaking, of being still while the world moves. Within the gentle currents of the reef live many soft little creatures called copepods, tiny drifting beings smaller than a grain of rice. They are the patient travelers of the sea, riding the slow currents wherever they go. They feed on even smaller things, on tiny floating algae too small for the eye to see. The fish of the reef feed on the copepods, and the larger fish feed on the smaller fish, and so on, all the way up to the great whales who feed on the tiny drifting things directly. The copepods are the soft, invisible foundation of so much of the reef's gentle life, the smallest threads that hold the whole great tapestry together. They drift quietly through the water, doing their slow, important work, never knowing how much they matter to the entire dreamlike world above them. The reef holds its own slow seasons, gentle as the breath of the year itself. In the warm summer months, when the water is warmest and the sun's reach is deepest, the corals grow their fastest and the spawning happens beneath the full moon. In the cooler southern winter, the water settles slightly, the sun travels at a softer angle, and many creatures rest more deeply. The seabirds visit certain seasons, the whales pass through in others. Even within a single day, the reef has its little seasons, its mornings, its noons, its twilights, its midnights, The reef does not hurry through its seasons. It moves through them the way a slow, gentle breath moves through a sleeping body. In and out, soft and steady. In time with the great unhurried rhythm of the world it has always known. There is a creature called the leafy sea dragon's gentler cousin, the weedy sea dragon, sometimes drifting along the southern edges of the reef's wider waters. Imagine a tiny, dreamlike creature that looks almost exactly like a piece of drifting seaweed, with soft little fronds along its slender body, swaying as it moves. Its colors are gentle, soft yellows, dreamy reds, sleepy greens. The sea dragon does not swim quickly. It drifts, almost weightless, carried softly through its own quiet life by the slow currents. To watch one is to feel that you are watching a piece of plant life come gently alive, a fragment of a peaceful underwater forest deciding for one moment to wander. They are some of the softest, most poetic creatures of the sea, living their long, dreamy lives among the slow swaying gardens of warm water. Among the reef's smallest gentle wonders are the tiny pygmy seahorses, smaller than your fingernail, almost impossibly delicate. They live tucked into the soft branches of certain corals, blending in so completely that they are nearly invisible. Their bodies are dotted with the same soft pinks and pale roses as the coral itself, every little bump and curve perfectly matched. To find a pygmy seahorse is one of the great quiet delights of those who love the reef. They cling with their tiny curling tails to the gentle coral, swaying along with the slow current, content to spend their entire lives upon a single soft branch. They are the smallest of the seahorse family, and perhaps the dreamiest. To imagine such tininess, such tenderness, such patient stillness, is to feel one's own thoughts grow small and soft and sleepy. In the deeper, dimmer waters along the outer edges of the reef, you may find the gentle giants called groupers, vast, rounded fish whose bodies can grow as large as a small boat. Despite their size, they are calm and peaceful, drifting slowly through the water with great soft eyes that seem to watch the world with quiet curiosity. The largest of them, the giant grouper, can live for many decades, growing slowly all the while. They rest within the soft shadows of underwater caves and ledges, drifting out only to feed in the slowest, most patient way. To meet the steady gaze of a grouper is to feel suddenly very small, in the most peaceful way, and to be reminded that great size and great gentleness can live perfectly together, in the same quiet, breathing body, beneath the soft, dreaming sea. The reef is also home to many quiet snails, soft creatures with their delicate shells coiled into perfect spirals. There are cowries with shells polished smooth as river stones, and cone snails dressed in patterns like soft mosaic tiles. The mighty triton, with its long, ridged shell, drifts slowly along the reef floor, gently keeping the populations of certain animals in balance. The murex snail wears a shell adorned with delicate spines that look like soft frost crystals. Each snail moves on a single, gentle foot, gliding across the seafloor with the most patient slowness imaginable. They leave behind no trail, no rush, only the quiet gift of their tender, unhurried passage. To watch a snail at work is to remember that life can be lived in the gentlest, smallest of motions and still be deeply, beautifully, completely full. Imagine, just for a moment, the way the entire reef looks from far above, gazed upon from the soft height of a quiet, drifting cloud. From there, the reef stretches out beneath you in great curves and ribbons of color. The deep blue of the open sea is patterned with soft turquoise lagoons scattered like dreamy footprints along the coast. Tiny white islands shine like little moons. The deeper channels appear as gentle dark veins running through the lighter coral. Everywhere, the soft pulse of waves traces feathery white patterns where the sea meets the reef's outer edge. From above, the reef looks almost like the very softest watercolor painting, blurred and dreamlike at its gentle edges. It is one of the most beautiful sights our world has to offer. A great living picture, painted slowly, lovingly, over countless ages. There is something deeply tender about the way different parts of the reef speak to one another, even across great distances. Tiny coral larvae drift on slow currents from one reef to another, carrying the soft promise of new growth. Schools of fish travel along the reef's long length, tying distant gardens together with their gentle swimming threads. Even the great migrating whales connect the reef to far-off oceans, weaving the warm waters into the larger song of the world. The reef is not one isolated place. It is part of a quiet web that touches every other ocean, every distant shore, every soft river that empties into the sea. The reef is connected, deeply and gently, to the great breathing planet itself. It is a soft thread in the world's largest, oldest, most quietly tender tapestry. There are gentle little sponges scattered throughout the reef, soft and porous, anchored quietly to the rocks and corals. They come in many dreamy shapes, some round and lumpy, some long and tubular, some spreading flat across the stone like soft mossy patches. Their colors are pastel and quiet, soft yellows, pale lavenders, gentle pinks, milky cream. Sponges feed by very gently drawing water through their soft little bodies, filtering tiny bits of food from each slow sip. Some sponges are tiny, no bigger than a fingertip. Others, the great barrel sponges, can grow large enough to fit a small child inside. They are some of the oldest creatures on Earth, having lived in the seas long before fish or coral. They are quiet ancestors, dreaming softly upon the seafloor for hundreds and hundreds of slow, patient years. Imagine drifting weightlessly through a soft tunnel of coral, where the walls rise gently around you in dreamy shades of cream and rose. Sunlight falls in long ribbons through gaps in the coral above, dappling everything in soft golden light. Tiny fish dart in and out of the small spaces, like little flecks of moving color. The sound of the water is gentle, a slow, breathing hush. The temperature is just right, warm, but never hot, cool, but never cold. You drift slowly, with no hurry, no destination. You simply float, suspended in this quiet sanctuary where the corals seem to bow softly toward you in welcome. This is the deep peace the reef offers. A place where one can rest, suspended within beauty, without ever having to do anything at all but be soft, and breathe, and be there. The reef is also home to many tiny gobies, small fish no bigger than a child's pinky finger, who tuck themselves into the smallest crevices of the coral. They are some of the smallest fish in the world, and yet they live full, peaceful lives, going about their tiny days with quiet purpose. There are gobies dressed in soft yellow with bright blue stripes, gobies the color of pale sunlight, gobies with delicate red dots like tiny strawberries. Some live in partnership with shrimps, sharing burrows and quiet routines. Some live alone, perched gently on a single branch of coral, watching the world drift by. They are tiny but full of personality, soft little watchers, content with their small kingdoms of stone and shell. The reef has many sizes of beauty, and the smallest may sometimes be the most tender of all. There is a fish called the lionfish, with long, soft fins that spread out around its body like the petals of an opening flower, or the slow drift of feathered scarves. The lionfish is one of the most dreamlike creatures of the reef, moving with the unhurried grace of something not in any rush at all. It drifts slowly through the water, its many fins gently swaying in the current, its soft striped body of cream and dark amber, the color of old wood. Its eyes are large and patient. It looks rather like a tiny living chandelier, swaying through the gentle dimness of the water. Despite its delicate appearance, the lionfish carries small protective spines, but it harms nothing that does not disturb its soft, drifting peace. It simply moves, slowly, beautifully, through the quiet gardens of the reef. The reef has its own quiet way of marking the passage of time. Each tiny coral grows in subtle layers, like the soft rings inside an old tree, each ring a record of a year's quiet passing. Marine biologists can read these rings by carefully and gently studying small bits of coral, learning about the temperatures and tides of seas long past. The reef remembers every season it has lived through, every warm summer, every cool winter, every gentle rain. It holds these memories softly, deep within its old, patient skeleton. To touch a piece of ancient coral, in your imagination, is to touch a slow, quiet record of countless years. The reef does not write its history with words. It writes it slowly, softly, in stone and limestone, in the gentle calligraphy of growth itself. There is a special kind of fish called the goatfish, who keeps a quiet little patrol along the sandy edges of the reef. The goatfish has two soft, delicate barbels under its chin, like little whiskers, which it gently uses to feel through the sand for tiny bits of food. It moves slowly, dipping its little chin to the seafloor as it goes, like a small, careful gardener pulling tiny weeds from a quiet bed. Goatfish often travel in small, peaceful groups, drifting along together in their soft, contented way. They come in dreamy shades of pink, cream, and warm gold, their colors deepening at twilight. To watch a goatfish at its quiet work is to feel one's own pace slow, one's own breath soften, in time with its gentle, careful rhythm of slow searching. Some of the corals of the reef glow with a quiet pink color called rose, named for the soft petals of the flower. Others are the color of warm cream, like the foam of fresh milk. Others are dressed in soft mauve, the color of twilight clouds, or in pale gold, like the very last light of the setting sun. The reef has every soft color imaginable, mixed together in slow, dreamy patterns. There are corals the color of unripe peaches, of butter melting on warm bread, of soft sea foam on a quiet morning shore. To imagine the reef is to imagine the gentlest paintbox in all the world, where every color is somehow softer, slower, more dreamlike than any color you have ever seen on land. It is a place where the colors themselves seem to whisper rather than speak. The reef has many small, dreamy crabs that hide gently among its corals. The boxer crab, tiny and shy, holds two small sea anemones in its claws, like a child holding little flowers, waving them softly to gather food. The decorator crab covers its small body with bits of seaweed and tiny corals, like a creature dressing itself in soft camouflage of gentle plants. The porcelain crab tucks itself among the swaying arms of an anemone, sharing a soft home with the same tiny family of fish. There are tiny coral crabs that live their entire lives within the gentle branches of a single coral, like small, devoted housekeepers. Each crab is a soft little gentle resident of its own particular corner. They are some of the most delightful, tender little creatures of the reef, going about their dreamlike days. There is a special place on the Great Barrier Reef called the Ribbon Reefs, a long string of slender, dreamlike reefs running along the outer edge of the Great System. The ribbon reefs are some of the most beautiful in the world, with steep walls dropping into deep blue water on one side and soft, warm lagoons on the other. The water there is exceptionally clear, the visibility soft and blue, as though one were drifting through a great pane of polished glass. Schools of fish swirl in slow, silvery clouds. Dwarf minke whales pass by in certain seasons. The ribbon reefs are a place of deep peace, a slow, dreamlike garden of corals stretched out like ribbons of pure life upon the gentle sea, drifting quietly in their long, peaceful procession beneath the warm tropical sun. The reef is also home to many soft, quiet algae, the smallest greenery of the underwater world. There are tiny, delicate algae that grow upon the corals like soft moss upon old stone. There are larger algae that drift softly in the currents, like little leaves tumbling through warm water. Some algae are pale green, others soft pink, others deep, dreamy red. They are some of the very oldest forms of life upon our quiet planet, having lived in the seas for billions of years before any animals began to appear. The reef is full of these gentle, ancient little plants, all going quietly about their slow, patient work of turning sunlight into soft food, the same way they have done since the very beginning of the long, slow, dreaming story of life upon our gentle, breathing earth. Among the most soothing sights of the reef is a school of tiny silver fish called fusiliers swirling together in slow, dreamy patterns. There can be thousands of them in a single school, all moving as if guided by one soft shared mind. They turn together in perfect unison, as if all making the same gentle decision at the very same moment. Light catches their silvery bodies, scattering in soft sparkles across the water, like a great living constellation drifting through the sea. They never collide, they never rush. They simply move, gently, beautifully, in their slow, shimmering ballet. To drift among such a school in your imagination is to feel surrounded by gentle, glittering peace, as though you were swimming through a slow, soft cloud of moonlight, scattering in every direction, then gathering itself together once again. Some of the gentlest scenes of the reef are at the surface itself, where the water meets the soft, warm air. Tiny ripples dance across the surface in slow, patient patterns, catching the sunlight in small, flickering pieces. Sometimes a soft school of flying fish bursts from the water, sailing through the air on long, glider-like fins for a few peaceful seconds before slipping gently back beneath the waves. Sometimes a slow dolphin breaks the surface to breathe, leaving behind a soft circle of expanding ripples. Sometimes a sea turtle simply lifts its sweet old face above the waves for a single long, slow breath. The surface of the reef is a soft, dreamy boundary, the place where two worlds meet in a gentle breathing exchange, neither rushing the other, both moving slowly in their own peaceful time. There is a moment, just before falling deeply asleep, when the world begins to feel softer, when colors blur together and edges grow gentle. The reef has a quality much like that, especially when one drifts above it in slow, dreamy stillness. The corals seem to merge with the soft sand, the sand with the gentle water, the water with the dappled sunlight. Time itself begins to feel slower, more elastic. The mind drifts. The breath deepens. There is no separation between watching and dreaming. The reef has carried so many gentle souls into this soft, drifting state. It is a place of natural lullaby, of unforced peace, of the kind of soft beauty that asks nothing of you, only invites you to soften with it, to slow with it, to let yourself be carried, gently, gently away. Among the loveliest moments at the reef are the soft, quiet times when nothing in particular is happening at all. The fish drift slowly, the corals breathe gently, the sand shimmers in the soft light, the water rocks back and forth in its endless slow rhythm. There are no events, no spectacles, no dramatic moments, only the quiet, gentle being of a great living place, going about its peaceful day. These are perhaps the deepest gifts the reef offers, the long, soft hours when one can simply rest within the breathing presence of so much patient life. There is something in this kind of stillness that mends the heart. The reef does not need to do anything to be beautiful. It simply is. And in being, it teaches us, gently, that we, too, are enough. Simply being, there are many places along the reef where the sand is so fine and so soft that walking upon it feels like walking on flour or upon clouds. The soft beaches of the islands are made of countless tiny pieces of broken coral, ground patiently by the sea over many years until they have become as fine as powdered sugar. The white of these beaches is so dreamy, so gentle, that they seem to glow softly in the afternoon light. Tiny shells lie scattered across the sand, dropped lovingly by the waves. Sometimes the gentle tracks of a sea turtle's slow journey are written across the soft beach, the way a baby's first footsteps are pressed gently into the floor of a sunlit room. The beaches of the reef are some of the softest, most tender places upon our quiet, breathing earth. The reef breathes slowly, in its own quiet way. The corals take in the warm water and gently release it, their tiny mouths sipping life from the sea around them. The fish open and close their gentle gills, drawing breath from the water in small, steady rhythms. The sea grasses sway in time with the soft current. Even the great whales, when they pass through, breathe in long, slow exhalations at the surface, sending soft puffs of mist into the warm air. It is as if the entire reef is a single great breathing creature. One slow inhale, one soft exhale, all of its many lives moving together in unison. To rest within that breath is to feel one's own breathing slow, to feel one's own body relax, to feel oneself become a small part of something deeply, beautifully alive. The reef is full of small, quiet kindnesses, the kind of gentle care that does not announce itself. The cleaner shrimp tending the great fish, the clownfish tending its anemone, the tiny goby keeping watch for its blind little shrimp companion, the mother turtle laying her eggs in the safe, soft sand and then returning to the sea, trusting the warm beach to hold them tenderly until they hatch. The sea cucumber slowly cleaning the seafloor for everyone else, the corals making homes for countless tiny lives. The reef is woven together gently by countless small acts of giving, of helping, of resting peacefully beside one another. It is a place where being kind is simply how things are done, has always been done, will always be done. And in this, the reef teaches us something soft and very tender. Imagine, just for a moment, the reef at the very deepest hour of the night, when the moon has gone, and the only light is the faint, distant glimmer of stars upon the still, dark sea. The reef sleeps in its own quiet way, breathing softly, holding all of its countless little lives in the gentle dark. Some creatures stir, drifting on small errands, most rest, tucked into their soft hideaways, dreaming whatever sea creatures dream. The water rocks slowly, the same way it has always rocked, the same slow lullaby that has soothed the reef for thousands and thousands of patient years. To imagine yourself drifting just above this hushed, dreaming garden is to feel held by something vast and gentle, breathing in time with the deep, peaceful sleep of the world's oldest, softest, most beloved place. And so, the reef holds its long, slow story, unfolding one quiet moment at a time. Each coral, each fish, each turtle, each tiny shrimp, each soft, drifting jellyfish is a small, tender thread in the same great, breathing tapestry. The reef does not hurry its tail. It does not need to. It has all the time in the world, all the patience of the moon, all the slow grace of the sea itself. It simply continues, quietly, as it has always done, weaving its tender story night after peaceful night, generation after gentle generation. And tonight, dear listener, you have drifted gently through that story alongside it, witnessed by the same slow stars that have always watched over the reef, carried by the same soft tide that has always rocked its many small, sleeping lives into the deep, soft dream. As our slow journey through the Great Barrier Reef draws gently to its quiet close, take one more soft, deep breath. Let the warm imaginary water hold you a little longer. There is no need to surface yet. The reef is still here, still breathing, still tending its peaceful, endless work, just as it has done for thousands and thousands of patient years. Beneath the soft, dappled light, the corals continue their slow growing, adding tiny invisible layers to their long, patient stories. The fish drift gently among the swaying gardens, each one a tender brushstroke of color in the great living painting of the sea. The sea turtles glide slowly through the warm shallows, their quiet wings beating in time with the soft heartbeat of the tide. Somewhere in the deeper blue, a great whale sings a low, dreamy song to its drifting calf, the notes carrying for many gentle miles through the water. The reef holds within itself so many soft, quiet wonders, more than any single night could fully tell. There are corals here, older than ancient cathedrals, fish whose ancestors swam these very waters when the world was younger, gentle friendships between tiny creatures that have been kept faithfully for ages. There are pearls of dawn light scattered across morning lagoons, soft starlight glimmering on sleeping nighttime tide pools, the slow patient pulse of the moon drawing the sea in and out, in and out, like the breathing of something vast and infinitely peaceful. The Great Barrier Reef is a living lullaby. Every wave that washes across it is a soft, tender note. Every coral polyp that opens at twilight is a tiny, luminous candle. Every tide that rises and falls is a slow, soft rocking of the world's oldest cradle. It is a place that has taught countless gentle hearts how to slow down, how to soften, how to rest within the quiet beauty of simply being. And tonight, you have drifted gently through its peaceful gardens, carried softly by your own slowing breath, by your own quietly closing eyes. May you carry a little of this soft, breathing stillness with you into the long, gentle night that lies ahead. And so, dear friend, our slow journey beneath the warm, sleeping sea comes gently to its close. The reef, with all its countless soft wonders, will rest peacefully on without us, breathing slowly into the long, dreamy night, just as it always has, just as it always will. The corals will continue their patient growing, the turtles will continue their slow, kind drifting. The tiny lights of the reef will go on glowing softly beneath the moon, like little candles tucked safely into the great dreaming heart of the world. You have done such a beautiful thing tonight, simply by allowing yourself this quiet time, simply by softening, slowing, breathing, simply by letting your mind drift gently across the warm, turquoise water, weightless as a feather, peaceful as a single soft cloud crossing a sleeping sky. There is nothing left for you to do now, nothing left to think about, nothing left to solve. The day has been laid down gently behind you, like a folded blanket placed quietly at the foot of a cherished bed. If these slow, soothing journeys have brought you peace tonight, a quiet tap on the like button or a gentle subscribe would be such a tender kindness. It helps these soft stories find others who, like you, are searching for stillness at the end of a long day. And if you are listening from your warm, soft pillow at this very moment, please know that I am so glad you found your way here, that you allowed yourself to slow down, to be carried, to rest within the soft breathing of the great reef and the gentle voice of the sea. In a quiet moment, very soft music will continue to play, tuned softly to the gentle frequency of 432 hertz, like a long, peaceful lullaby for your slowly drifting heart. Let it carry you the rest of the way into sleep. Let your breath grow softer. Let your body grow heavier. Let your dreams begin their own quiet, beautiful drifting. Thank you for spending this peaceful evening with me. May your sleep be as soft as moonlight on still water, as gentle as the slow tide rocking the dreaming reef, as deep and as kind as the great quiet sea itself. Good night and sleep deeply.